live from Huntertown, Indiana. It's Soarin Hawk on the air. So it's a nice fall day out there. The temperature is really nice, about 52 degrees. It's not too windy, and we have a few of the birds around. And so a lot of the raptors have either passed through or are passing through. We had a high number of broadwings go through a couple weeks ago. And there's a few, I'm still seeing a couple of Sharpies and some coops going by. Vultures have mostly passed by, and so a lot of people have questions like, well, I see that black dot up in the air. How do I identify what it is? And I hate to tell you this, but lots of luck. No.
You're never going to find out.
But sometimes, but we're going to try to give you some information about that. So we look up there and we look in the sky and look at all those dots. Oh, great. There's a lot of birds passing by, and just what are they? And if you're lucky, you're sitting on top of a mountain or a skyscraper or something, and you can look down on the birds and you can identify them. But most of the time, we are looking up. So how do we identify raptors in flight? Well, raptors come in several different flavors, and they have unique silhouettes. So typically you can see falcons, they have the nice swept back wings, usually narrowish looking wings when they're flying. Accipiters usually have long bodies, shortish wings to, that kind of thing. You got buteos, which have kind of fat bodies, if you will. They have wide wings, and they have this nice, somebody says like having muscles, you're looking at muscles build up on the wing there. I think they're like the dewlaps that hang off my triceps that hang down. So either way you look at them. So you have the buteos. Then you have harriers. Harriers have long bodies, but they also have long, thinnish wings. So you can see them sticking out, and and then you have the ospreys. And of course, ospreys are very distinctive because they have this cranked type wing here that goes like that. So you can really tell them. Then you have the eagles. Eagles have medium length tails and bodies, but they have wide, long wings, so that they kind of look flattish, so it looks like a big board out there, like a 4x8 or something like that. So, so nice wide. And then you have the vultures. They have longish tails. Well, not all of them, but many of the vultures have longish tails, and they have wide wings, and they're kind of flat. So those are the general silhouettes that you should become familiar with. And one of the things that you want to do is familiarize yourself with this, is because what you do is, as soon as you look up at a bird, you see a silhouette, you can eliminate a whole bunch of other birds, okay? So then you're only concentrating on a few. And so you look at those, and so that's a way to get yourself started on, and what we call this JIS, okay? General impression, size, and shape, okay? Right? Huh. And this was something that was introduced during World War II, to help people identify enemy planes from American planes. And unfortunately, some of our gunners never learned the difference. So anything that was flying was fair game. So anyways, so we'll start off. And so we're going to start off with buteos, okay? And again, the buteos have kind of wide wings, but not real long, but not real short. But they have this droopy thing here, okay, in their wing. So that's one of the big distinctive things with them. And they usually have relatively short tails. So you're going to see, so when these birds are passing overhead, you can look up and you can pretty well tell that they are buteos. So you can eliminate. So we only have around here, we only have like 5 or 6 buteos that would be found in the area. So we have our red tails, red shoulders, broad wings. Occasionally we'll have a rough-legged that'll go through. Let's see who else will go through. Those are the ones I can think of offhand. But so those are the ones we're going to be seeing commonly. And so we'll start looking at them. And of course, the bird that we see the most of around here are red-tailed hawks. And as soon as I start telling you about identifying red-tailed hawks, you're going to say, Okay, so the big thing with red-tailed hawks, if you see a hawk flying over that's light underneath and has a belt, okay, a belly band, you're pretty sure that's a red-tailed hawk, okay? And as soon as I say that, if you go out and you look at our red-tailed hawks, some of them have some really definite belly bands, and some don't have definite belly bands. So you got to look at a few other things. And so, red tail is a good thing to look for. So an adult bird will have a red tail, but it's only red on top. So looking underneath, you may not see that red. If it's an immature, it's going to have a brown tail. Again, brown on top, and so you're not going to see that. So the other things you want to look at besides belly bands is you want to look at this petegial area right here, and that's going to be black right here. That's a petegial area, and so that is one of the ways that you can separate out a red-tailed hawk from other hawks or other hawks from red tails. So most definitely a red-tailed hawk will have a dark blackish petegial thing. Also, look for the comma here at the wrist. So if they're soaring overhead, you can look for that comma. And so this is the birds that have this. So there's three things you can look for. Well, four things. You look at the tail. You get the red tail. Okay, you got a red tail. If but you may have a brown tail, and it's because it's an immature or juvenile bird. So the other things to look for is the belly band. You may have a belly band, but there's some guys that really have hardly any belly band, like freckles out there. Yeah. It says just a few little spots out there. So sometimes they don't have spots on theirs. Okay, so you just have to so you have to look at other things, petegial markings like that, and then the comma out here on the wrist. Rough-legged hawks are another bird that comes down through this area. And typically, rough-legged hawks have a black belly. Okay, that's the big giveaway on those guys. The other thing is this is a juvenile up here, and so when they mature, you get this nice black across here. You have the black out here at the wrist, okay, which kind of disappears when this all fills in. And of course, then you have the tail with the white. There goes the old brain. Trailing edge, if you will. The white trailing edge right here, and then the black band in the tail. So this is, and of course, the white here under the vent area. So you have that. So it's a good thing to look for. And of course, we also have dark black wingtips. So you look for those black wingtips out there. So there's several distinctive things that will indicate that you have yourself a red-legged hawk. There's a really sharp. We don't see too many of them here. They tend to be a more northern bird, or more, you find them up in Canada, Michigan, and across the Great Lakes, that area. And so we don't see too many. We get a few a year around here, And again, we may misidentify them. We may pass them off as just being red-tailed hawks, and they're about the same size as red tail. But they are distinguishable if you look a little harder. And of course, one of our guys that we have here, red-shouldered hawks, very common out here in the forest. And again, you can identify them from several different things. One of the big things is red-tailed hawks basically have a lot of markings on the chest. Okay, so you have the markings on the chest, whether they're juveniles like this or adults like this. So you have the breast is really colored up. And you have various degrees of white to red as the bird gets older. So you have that. You have the black wingtips out here, okay? So you look for the wingtips. And, of course, the tail. You have the banded tail here. So the banded tail becomes very, very definite. So you look for the things you want to look for. Again, look for a lot of markings on the chest like this. And these are a relatively small bird compared to the red tails. They're about 2/3 of the size of a red tail, maybe a little smaller. And it depends. Females, again, are larger, okay? So they tend to be about 25% larger than the males. And so that's a little bit of a distinguishing thing. But when they're in flight, it's kind of hard to tell when they're passing over. So those are some of the things you look for. So look, again, like I said, look for the markings on the chest, and as they get older, you're going to see more and more rufusy color in the chest. And then you get the black wingtips out here. And the banded tail's a nice giveaway. And so top and bottom. Hi, Monet. Monet dropped in. She wants to know all about raptors in flight.
You probably won't see her in flight much
No.
during the day.
No.
Have to worry about identifying
She's
her.
nocturnal. Okay. And of course, one of our favorites, broad-winged hawks. And again, another small buteo. This is smaller than a red-shouldered hawk. So it's about half the size of a red tail, maybe a little larger than that. But again, very short tail, very large compared to the other birds. The wings are a little shorter, so it makes it look more like it has a broader wing. It looks like the wing is much larger. So proportionally, it's larger than the aspect ratio of a red-tailed hawk, which tends to have longer wings and a little slightly thinner. But again, we still have that bulgy pattern out here. Okay, black wingtips around here. Okay, and of course the big giveaway is the tail with the nice black and white bands out here. And so it's always a good giveaway on these guys. When they're immatures, you get a little bit. It's a little lighter. Okay, you don't have the well-developed bands that you have in the adults. But again, black wingtips, no petegial. Okay, no wrist marking. But like I said, typically they're a little smaller, and they're easily distinguishable in flight. But sitting down, they're really easy to figure out.
Yeah,
Right. Everything's better
That
when
flight
sitting
thing.
still.
Yeah.
That
Right.
flight thing is a
Yeah.
killer, right? Yeah. Now, one of the questions is accipiters, which is how do I tell the difference between a sharp-shinned hawk and a Cooper's hawk
Yeah.
in flight? Well, one of the things I've been told, and I watch for it, is the fact that it always looks like on a sharp-shinned hawk that the head does not protrude any past the edge of the wings, okay? So it looks like it's kind of run into a wall, funk, and, so it's had its head pushed back in as compared to a Cooper's hawk, whose head protrudes further out, okay, past the front of the wings. So its head's further out. The other thing is the tail. The tail on a sharpshin is basically rectangular, okay? So it's, squared off, flat on the end, whereas with a Cooper's hawk, it's rounded on the end. So that's another thing you can tell. Even when they're sitting, you can tell that.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So, but we'll take a little closer look at some of these guys. So, looking at the Sharpies. So you have some examples of an immature female. Again, the big thing here is that you got a lot of coloration in the chest area. Okay, so when you see them, there's a lot of markings on the chest. Of course, I'm sitting here making gestures out here that everybody here can see, but nobody there can see. Nothing like live television.
Yeah.
Yes.
They'll have to come here and watch
You
too.
just have to come and watch the show. Yeah, we don't charge much. Tickets are free.
Yeah.
So anyways, again, we got the bands here, okay, in the tail. And they're kind of obscured because you have a darker gray coloring that comes in through here. And then you have the black tail markings. And in flight, again, everything squares up, all right? And so you get that nice squared tail. And like I said, it looks like the head's been pushed into the body. And so it doesn't protrude. The other thing you want to look for with the coops, or with the Sharpies and the coops for that matter, is this white area around the vent area that overlaps onto the top. So it's got kind of like this white band that goes all the way around. And so that's really pretty distinctive when they're flying by. You can see it top and bottom, and gives you a pretty good clue as to what you have an accipiter there. And of course, you can tell by the flight too. The flight is very crow-like, so it's more of a rowing type flight when it's propelling itself. But gliding, typically the wings are not necessarily stretched out like this. Sometimes you get them soaring, especially when they're doing courtship flights. You'll see them actually with the wings out like that and actually doing a courtship thing. But when they're in pursuit, they get their wings swept back and kind of slightly tucked in so they can build up some speed and control. They're very agile flyers. So and they're very quick. And also you can see if you have good binoculars, you got a good view. You also see that the legs are quite exposed. Okay, so you're going to see a lot of exposure on the legs, unless the feathers cover it. Then, of course, you have the Cooper's hawks, which are quite common at everybody's bird feeders around here. So again, you have the males and the females. Oh, I forgot on the others. Typically, the mature males are going to be kind of grayish blue or grayish. I guess you would call them slate gray.
Yeah,
slate gray on the back, whereas the females are going to be brown on the back. So that's another giveaway on the identifying whether they're males or females. So don't look at like the guy I was showing birds to, and he says, I've looked at that bird and I can't tell what's male or female because I can't see any genitalia. So I'm sorry. It's kind of like, no, I can explain to you about birds, So anyways, so we have other birds like the Cooper's hawk. Again, a little longish. The head protrudes further, okay, beyond the edge of the wings. The big thing there is like the mature male or the immature males do have some streaking on the chest, that area, but not very heavy, whereas the females are very heavily, wherever it was. What did they do there? I labeled those wrong, didn't I? Okay. So the immature female, sorry about that. I got that messed up there. Okay. Immature female has a lot heavier streaking and markings on the chest. And again, the mature males basically have some streaking, and this varies all over the place. A lot of the pictures that they show a lot of markings. The females definitely have all the streaking and everything on their chest, but the males, they can tend to have almost white, a white appearance with some slight markings to heavy markings. So it varies all over the place with just like us, we people, we have a lot of various markings too, and we look a little bit different. But so again, the big thing is look for the rounded tail, the bands in the tail, the big heavy black bands. And as they mature, these bands become more definite and separated out from the background color. So let's see. And goshawks, we rarely get those. I think I've only seen maybe 2 or 3 in the last 40 years around here. So, so they're not very common, but if it's really bad weather up in Canada or there's no food for them to eat up there, some of those will come down, and those are very definite. The big thing there is with the goshawks, you're going to see that there's white behind or light colored behind the head, so that black doesn't go all the way down and blend in. It actually separates, so you can really see that. Also, the bird's much longer and much bulkier looking. And the big thing there is look at the eyes. The eyes tend to be really, really heavy red for a good mature goshawk. So they're bigger. They're about the size, almost like the size of a peregrine. So they're good sized birds. So the next thing we have are falcons. And what I've been told is one of the things is to separate out the falcons in flight is that you look at the behavior. And so you have your little kestrels. They say kestrels dance, okay? So kestrels are up there. They're dancing around up in the air. They're doing their hovering thing. They're moving from side to side and back and forth and that kind of thing. And so they're dancers, okay? Merlins, basically, they're shoot and scoot, okay? They just come in and they're gone, okay? So, about the only time that you actually see a Merlin is when it's sitting still. The rest of the time, they're just flat moving. I've seen, I had one actually, was perched up in my backyard one time, which was rather amazing, but it was only because it was sitting up in the cottonwood tree where it could look down the marsh where there was some ducks. So it was waiting, it was looking down there, just kind of waiting a little bit. But but almost all the other Merlins I've ever seen have been like, they're basically brown with streaking underneath, and so they're not like the kestrels where they have the nice distinctive coloration. These guys, all the males and the females, they look alike. They do have an eye stripe. Like our little kestrels. And then finally you have the peregrines, which tend to be high flyers. And again, they're fast birds, but rarely do I actually, I hardly ever see them soaring. They always seem like they're busy going after stuff. Yeah. And so they really get those wings out there and they're really pushing themselves along. So first off, we start up here with some Merlins. And again, heavy streaking underneath. Okay, and they have banding on the tail, and of course they have the distinctive swept back wings like that. In soaring, they will get their wings out and they will catch the wind. But you won't. I've never seen any of them hover. In fact, I don't know of anybody that's ever told me that they hover. They tend to be, they may do some quick turns and stuff like that, but they look very blunt shaped. In fact, they a lot of times when I see them and they're really moving along, they look bullet shaped. The wings aren't extended any more than they need for propulsion. So a lot of times these wings are actually kind of tucked into the body, so only like the tips are out there. And so they're like a little guided missile, and they're just scooting through the air. Let's see, who's that? Okay. Whoop. What did I do? Huh. What's going on, Bob? What'd you do? Come on, back. Back. Where's back? I think I skipped somebody. Skipped something. Hey, Ruby, how you doing? She just walked in. Here we go. Previous. I'm sorry. Doop. Come on. Previous. Previous. Sorry, we've lost part of our audience. We just got some birds in. So, okay. So anyways, let's see. I'm sorry, I got the slides backwards. Okay. Anyways, well, we everybody knows what kestrels are like. So kestrels, females have streaking underneath. The males tend to be a little bit more plain with orange underneath, and then of course the tail is distinctive, and again hovering flight, eye stripe. Merlins, they do have an eye stripe, but it's mainly almost like a mask, and again all brown underneath like this, very like I said, bullet shaped, and rarely do I ever see them actually ever soaring. Typically, they're just moving right along. And then you have peregrines, and peregrines come in a lot of different colors, and but typically, depending upon the race, but they're dark underneath with a lot of streaking and striping underneath, and sometimes it's really, really hard to tell the difference between the males and females. But again, the like the eye stripe can be a stripe, or it can actually be a mask, and in some cases actually covers the whole head, and like a balaclava. And then we go for ospreys. Ospreys aren't too common around here, but they might be where you live, and they have the nice cranked up wing like this. And if you look at them head on when they're coming towards you, actually that wing actually goes up and down like this. So it's what they call gull-shaped wing. So, and what that does is it gives them better control of their flight, lowers the center of gravity of the bird, so it's a little bit more stable in the air. And so it's got this kind of thing. And again, rarely do I ever see them soaring. They basically are either in flight or getting or gliding and looking for their fish, that kind of thing. But they will catch the wind and they will get out there. And so they have really long wings, relatively short tail, and so they can stay out there. But the big thing there is they have this shape to their wings, like I guess you would call that like a W almost. And then we have harriers. Harriers will be coming down here soon into this area. And harriers are a relatively large winged bird. The size of them, they're probably a little bit larger. Well, no, not quite. They're probably a little larger than a red-shouldered hawk, about the red-shouldered hawk size. And they have longish wings, and depending upon their age. So you have the immatures that come out, and so they're darkish underneath, dark on the dark armpits, if you will, or wing pits for the immatures, and they'll have brown streaking on the chest, longish tail, okay, and the wings really are kind of stretched out, and they don't have that bulge like you have on the buteos. So these tend to be a little bit straighter out, and as they mature, okay, like the females will get like this, And so get the bands on the tail, brown head, brown face, and then brown underneath. And again, you don't have as much of that bulge like you do on the Buteos. And then you have the mature males, the gray on top. They're not brown like the females. And they have the longish tail, black wingtips on there. And usually this is clear underneath here, so or very little marking underneath. And when they fly, well, if they're just passing bird, they'll fly somewhat high and in a gliding mode. But when they're hunting, they're usually at a low level, maybe 10, 15 feet off the ground, with their a little bit of dihedral in the wings, so their wings are bent up a little bit. That gives them lowers their body to a lower center of gravity, if you will. Well, there's Ginger, Ranger. Okay, stranger danger, huh? Coming in, okay. Somebody out there, somebody's passing by. So they'll have a little bit of dihedral in there, and that lowers the center of gravity so that they can have a better controlled slow flight, because when they're hunting, they're not traveling very fast, just a few miles an hour. And, depending upon the wind for lift or for propulsion, and as they soar across the grasslands, that kind of thing. And finally, there's vultures. And the big thing with vultures is that, you have the immatures. And so a lot of times, the immatures have black heads. But all the vultures, the turkey vultures, have silver linings, okay? Silver linings to their wings. So that's the biggest way to tell these vultures, the black vultures and turkey vultures. Up here in the northern part of Indiana, very, very rarely do we have any black vultures around. Some a little bit lost maybe, but all what we have up here are turkey vultures. And again, look for the silver lining underneath, okay, and the silver wingtips out here, okay. So that's going to be the big thing. Relatively long tail, but the wings are relatively flattish looking, if you will, and they're long and wide, okay? So they're like that. But the black vultures don't have the silver panels, okay? So that's going to be the biggest thing. So silver wingtips, okay? Silver wingtips is what you're going to use to tell a black vulture. Also, the tail is relatively short, okay? So you're not, it doesn't have as long a tail. And, of course, the head's black. If there's one that's redheaded, that means he's either a turkey vulture or he's had a really good meal. Okay. And then finally, we get to eagles, golden eagles. Golden eagles pass through here about this time of the year, about November. We usually see them flying through, so we get one or two going by. And the big thing is with golden eagles, immatures, 3 white spots, okay? White in the wings like that, and white here. If it's a mature golden eagle, when they turn, when they bank, you can actually see the white spots on the top, and you get the 3 white spots on top. So you get the same pattern. Again, white. The wings are designed for lift, lifting heavy loads. So they tend to be about as wide. They have a lot of width to them as well as length. So the big thing here is the 3 white spots are a giveaway, and for the immatures. And for the matures, if, like I said, looks all dark underneath, okay? So the only thing that you might confuse that with would be either like a black vulture, but which is relatively smaller. These wings, this picture here makes it look like the wings are relatively short, but to me, it looks like big, long planks when they're out there. And the wings are flat when they're flying. If you can see head on or when they bank or turn, you'll see that the wings are really flat, whereas with the vultures, you're going to have dihedral in there. They're going to be bent up. The other thing is that on the Goldens, there's just a little bit of dihedral, not much, but so it's a relatively flat thing. And then you have bald eagles, and bald eagles, of course, as they mature, to get up to their white tail and white head, there's going to be a lot of variation of white underneath and white on top and white underneath. But again, longish wings, wide, okay, so it supports a lot of weight, so they look like big planks out there, and longish tails. And so the amount of white underneath is going to vary as they mature. And even if you look at Jeff out there, he's got still a few white spots.
Yeah.
You know, even at the age of 10. But basically, you know, once they get about 5 or 6, then you get the white head, and they develop that white head as they're going along, and white tail. So you know, so there's going to be variations of white in the wings and white in the tail and head. And let's see, who else we got? So in conclusion,
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
wow.
Well, we didn't have to wait for it this time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's no. Wow.
So I'm going to do my commercial first, and then we'll
Okay.
go and we'll talk about our birds that we have here.
I have a great John Denver song you could use.
So anyway, so I know empty store shelves, okay, and all those boats still sitting out there holding your Christmas presents. Yeah, but don't worry, you know, you're not going to have a bummer Christmas because Soarin Hawk can help. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, some of you people didn't make it to the calendar sale. You know, I think we sold I think we've ordered something like 475 calendars.
Yeah.
So we got a bunch of people who bought calendars.
Yep.
And so some people are really, really going to be happy. You other folks, I'm sorry, you missed out on a deal. But we can still help you. You can adopt a raptor, okay? You can adopt a raptor, and you can adopt it for yourself, or you can adopt it for a friend. And you'll get a nice adoption certificate. You'll get an 8x10 photo of your bird, and you'll also get the biography of your bird, so you know what your bird's all about. So this is a really cool thing. So go to our website, okay? How you can help, and you can adopt a bird. So you can either provide medical treatment for a bird, or you can provide food for a bird. So adopt a raptor, okay? We wouldn't mind that, okay? So that's one of the things you can do. You can take a raptor adventure, okay? You can come out here and see all the birds and see all their wonderful attendants, you know, that take care of them. So you can give me a call, or you can apply through our website, and we can bring you out here, and you can take your family on a tour. So it might be a nice Christmas Day thing. How many people be out here Christmas?
I don't think I'll be here on Christmas.
You don't think you'll be here on Christmas?
No. So it's
Okay.
Saturday. Saturday's not my day.
Okay. But if it's necessary, we will be out here on Christmas.
I'll greet you.
But it'd be a great Christmas present. But you know, but we can do Boxing Day Christmas for you.
Right, during the week.
Come on
That'd be
Boxing Day,
nice.
or during the week. You know, the kids have school off, and you're desperate to find something for them to do. Come on out, okay? So, Raptor Adventure, or give it to somebody as a gift, okay? That they can come out. In fact, I know there's a lady in Indianapolis who's given this as a gift for her kids.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's nice.
So they live
Don't
up
spoil
here.
the surprise.
So
Yeah, right.
what?
Don't spoil the surprise.
I know. I didn't name her.
That's good.
Yeah. And then one of the things is I have a couple people have called in about having Soarin Hawk come out to a school class or something like that, and they're giving it as a gift. So they're going to present it to the school as a gift. So that's a real nice thing. So Soarin Hawk has programs. They're available for the schools, the homeschoolers, community groups, scouts, churches, retirement homes, birthdays, parties, weddings, Eagle Awards, block parties, baby showers. I can't think of any other excuses for having.
You
But-
don't even need a reason.
You don't need a reason.
Just
No,
because.
Just because.
Yeah.
You will just come out to your house just because.
Yeah,
And
right.
so this is something else. So surprise your spouse. Like, guess what's at the door? A bunch of hawks.
Yeah. Guess what, honey?
Guess what? So there's all kinds of things that we can do to help you out, and it would be unique. And and some people will say, "Well, I never thought of that." So that's one of those things that you can do. So give us a try. We're really flexible. So and again, I'm asking that if you got some fish, bring them on out for Jeff and Air and Poe and the bald eagle, and they'll appreciate having some fish.
Yep.
And I think we've gotten past the fresh fish thing.
Right, we don't
Live
need
fish.
live.
No live fish now. So because it's freezing at night, and the last bunch of fish we got live fish. Yeah, they were already ice cubes when we went to put them in the freezers.
Yeah.
So that didn't work out too well. And again, you're going to be trying to buy stuff on Amazon, but make us your designated charity. Okay, on Amazon Smile, we get a little bit, half of 1% of what you buy. So
Half of 1%.
Yeah.
well, it's
It's something. I know.
it's something. Well, not cheap people like me, but there's other people. But so we make a. I forget. I think last year, according to Amazon, they said that I donated $147, which I thought was rather decent. I didn't know I bought that much
Wow.
stuff. I thought, gee,
Your
what?
wife did.
I thought, like, what the heck did I buy?
Half of 1%.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's community rewards there. If you have a Kroger card, because you get it there for your coupons and stuff, you can also designate us as your charity, and we get a bit of that. So I think the last time, for last quarter, we got $455. We have 150 families that have signed up. So that really helps us out,
Yes.
So $455. Let's see, that's how many. That's 3 boxes of mice. Okay, so that's really nice. I said the right word. She said mice. She looked at me like, what? Somebody said the right word. So so it all helps us out. Helps out the birds. Again, we're a very not-for-profit organization. We're 501c3. We get no government funding. Okay, so so we and which is probably a good idea because once you get dealing with the government, then never mind. We won't talk about that. So that's way off. But we get no government funding. We get no support. But we do have some people in town. Some of the companies have remembered us at the end of the year. So I think
that's nice.
So AP helps us out a little bit, and PNC and several of the other organizations do give us some help. But we go through probably about $2,000 to $3,000 every quarter in just buying food for the birds, and so that costs us a bit, and also to keep the lights on in here. It takes a little bit of money, and the water, because we of course have to feed and water our birds, but part of the thing is just keeping the place clean. We make sure that their pens are kept clean, so we keep the any chances of diseases and things like that, so we keep our birds really healthy. So it's so there's a lot of little utility bills, and so every little bit helps us. So anyways, I'm going to sign off. But before we sign off, we're going to go and look at some birds. We have who did we bring in? We brought in
Ruby? Her.
we brought in Ruby.
Step up.
We'll see if Ruby wants to talk
Yeah.
today.
Step up.
Hi, Ruby.
Hey, Ruby. And so Ruby.
Hi, Ruby. How are you today?
So Ruby's here, and look at that. So here's her nice belly band. Okay, you can see that nice belly band there. And can you get your wings out so we can see your petitium? Come on, show us your petitium. Look at that. Yeah,
Oh,
there
good
you
job, Ruby.
go. You had to be fast there. Try again. Come on, get it. Come on. Oh, yeah, look at it. See the black petitium there? And you can see the little wrist thing there. Yeah. Very good girl. Okay. So she does a good job for us. Okay. And of course she has that nice distinctive red tail. Let's see the red tail. Show us your red tail, girl. Okay. So she's got that nice red tail with that really. Where's that little white feather? There it is. Oh, she's getting a few white feathers now.
Yeah.
So she's got a few white feathers there. Hey, watch where you're aiming that. And so, I didn't quit aiming at me.
I kept moving.
Kept moving. So anyway, so she's got that nice white feather, which our Miami friends tell us means she's a blessed bird. And I know she likes going to powwows, and she likes being around our Native friends, Native American friends. So thank you. You going to talk to us today? No?
No.
She was a little bit ago.
She did talk last week.
Anything?
Yeah, last week she had a lot to say, didn't you, Ruby?
Did you? Did you have a lot to say? Let's see if we can do a replay of that.
Anything, Ruby?
Let's see, where is it?
Any comments on today's lesson?
Oops.
Yeah, all our birds, most of the birds stay after all winter time. Yeah, all winter except, by the calendar! So what a good girl. What a good girl. Yes, you can
Who was that, Ruby?
Don't use that kind of language. Good shot there. And I'm sorry I insulted you. Really? Yeah, really. My goodness. Men are so insensitive. So better be Ruth's running out here, like I said,
She knows.
all winter long.
What do you think, Rube?
That was good. Nothing to say today, though, huh? You're pretty happy.
That's a comment.
Yeah.
I've heard that comment before. Yeah, what do you think, Rubes? And so, and then we also have Monet here.
Hi, Monet. Hi,
You're
Monet.
talkative.
Tell
They're both talking back and forth. I don't know what they say about us when we leave. So, hey, but we didn't do owls tonight or today, mainly because they're kind of hard to see. They hardly soar overhead, and occasionally you might be able to see them. But the nice distinctive thing about the barn owls is they're so white underneath it. They're almost ghost-like when they fly across. So if you're fortunate enough going up and down the back roads over there in Leo or Graybull over that area, you might see these white ghost-like things going across the roads, and so they're really distinctive. But mainly with the owls, you can usually tell by the size about what kind they are. But most of the time, if you see a barn owl, or I'm sorry, a barred owl or a screech owl, they look gray when they pass across and just kind of go by size. Something that's large and moth-like is probably a screech owl, and something a little bit larger than that is barred owl. And then, of course, when you see a great horned owl going across, it's all kind of big and brownish and about the size of a red-tailed hawk, and it goes silently across. So I'm done for the day, I think. And
Yep.
I think we have some birds come in that need to be taken care
sorry.
of.
Well, we have one.
You have one?
One.
Okay. And I
Yep.
think there's another one. I think one just arrived. I see somebody just drove up with the one.
Oh.
So we got to get back to work.
Yep, got to get to work.
Gotta get to work and take
I just
care of
want to say hello to Emily, who said hi from Virginia. Hi, Emily.
Virginia.
Yeah.
Hi, Emily.
So, alrighty. Well, we'll see you next
Bye.
week, everybody.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah. Oh, beautiful bird. Bye.
Bye bye.